So it says we're live. So I'm going to talk for a few seconds and ask Clay, how are you? To check our audio levels, let us know how you sound, and everyone in the chat, let us know if Clay sounds okay too, and me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We sound great. We're off to technical difficulty. WandaVision technical difficulties just flash up on the screen.
Yeah, I need to get an effect for my hands to turn red.
That's right.
And I can fix everything just by doing this.
It's an impressive power. Yeah, let us know, people in the audience, how Clay's audio sounds compared to mine. Driving for work, so I just get to listen today. You're the perfect person to tell us, except you're driving.
Eyes on the road.
I know. Nowhere where it's snowing. We got a little bit of snow coming in today. It's just starting to snow here, Clay, although I'm a little bit west of you. But expect feet of snow, death.
You're the Klingon outpost that gets hit by the first wave of the blast.
All right, I guess it sounds good. They can hear you. So we're here to talk about WandaVision episode 4, which has a title, but I guess they retroactively went back and titled all the previous episodes, because when I was looking on Wikipedia, it just said episodes 1, 2, and 3, but they've given them titles. It's called We Interrupt This Program. It's the latest episode of WandaVision. It's episode number 4. We're not wearing beekeeper suits, Norman, because we are in reality in our current situation. Clay, what'd you think of WandaVision episode 4, which is the most unique of the episodes so far? If you want to explain why that is and what you thought about it.
I thought it was good. I loved the opening sequence. I really, really liked the opening sequence in the hospital with Monica coming back from being blipped out.
I do look like a bee. Sorry, go ahead.
That's true. You do. Yeah. It explored a little bit of how chaotic something like that would actually be.
It's referencing Thanos' snap, right? That's what they're talking about there.
Yeah, they're referencing the events of Endgame where everybody comes back.
Oh, so right.
It's five years in the future, and things have moved on, and all of a sudden half the world has returned. So to see the chaos of that was really interesting, and putting it in a hospital, I think, is a good place to do that, because it would be very, very chaotic.
Why did they come back? Oh, I guess why was she? Sorry, there's a little bit of like lack of me understanding what the sort of canon aspect of this is. Why is she in the hospital at that point?
Because that's where she disappeared from.
Right.
So the idea is that wherever you disappeared from, that's where you return.
Okay. Sorry, and why was she in the hospital? I'm sure this is
because her mother had cancer and had just come out of some sort of surgery. So the two of them were in the room together. And
I see.
Monica disappeared, and then in that time, her mom had died. So then she came back in the room.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, and then after that, we get into a mostly real world episode. Real world in the sense that not whatever Wanda's fake artificial construct world is. And we meet a lot of sword people. We meet a lot of bureaucrats. We meet an FBI agent who apparently is the person that people were correct when they said that it was him on the radio, and it is him.
It's funny. I didn't recognize the voice the first time I watched that episode, but as soon as somebody said that, I went back and watched it again. I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely him.
It's definitely him. Yeah, I'm kind of torn about this one. This is everything I didn't want the show to be, but at the same time, I kind of liked it. But at the same time, I also thought that the I don't know if this is an MCU thing, and I'm just not remembering it. I thought all the dialogue of the FBI and sword agents was really hokey to a point where it's like, I don't want any more of this, because I don't. It just seems really corny when you go into this real world, and they're kind of like jokey, silly, but at the same time, their dialogue is extremely FBI cliche. It's like, I took this job, but you should have been the woman to get this job, and let's go file some paperwork and get off to the mission. And I didn't really like that. I like the Wanda sitcom stuff better. And I know that people don't like that stuff as much because they want it to eventually tie into the MCU. But I don't want the majority of the show to be this going forward, really, either. So I don't know where the show leaves us. And I'm a little bit disappointed this entire episode was based on this point of view getting across.
Yeah, my issue with it was that it was a little bit too much. I wish the point where it ended had pushed the story along a little bit further, because ending it where they did, it just sort of was like, okay, let's catch everybody up to speed who hasn't really thought about any of it. Because the stuff that they told you in this one, I mean, aside from introducing Monica Rambeau as a workable character, they're not really telling you that much really new information or that much revelatory stuff. I mean, the stuff they do tell you is kind of stuff we already assumed was happening anyway.
I would say the biggest thing they tell you is that the entire town is a fiction at this point. Like
Sure,
that,
yeah.
that when they drive up and they have that interaction with the cops about that town not existing. But I get what you mean. Everything else was kind of a you know the information, they're just showing you the other point of view of people who are looking at it, and so we don't advance in the plot anymore this episode. We just get the other side of the coin explained to us.
Yeah, so which is why I wish they had kind of pushed it a little bit further and given us another bit of another crumb of story, because otherwise, while I enjoyed it and while it was fun to watch from the other point of view, it was a lot of, and like, I can't I understand this is what the characters would be asking and stuff, but it's like you're watching Kat Dennings essentially be an audience member who's asking a lot of the same questions the audience is asking, but they're not providing any answers to it. So it's a lot of her going like, but wait a minute, why is this a sitcom? And they're like, I don't know. Who knows why it's a sitcom?
Yeah.
And then, oh, well, how come Monica's in there, but she's looks like this? I don't know. We don't really know the answer to that. So having repeatedly asking those questions, and I'm not saying I want them to be answered, but it just felt like it's a lot of catching up for everybody else who's not actively watching the show or something.
Making sure the audience is completely on the page as to what is going on in this world.
I think they could have done without some of that stuff, but generally I thought it was nice. I liked it.
Yeah, I could have done with half. I wish they had kept to this previous thing of the endings of the episode revealing a little bit more about what's going on. I don't know if you agree. I find, like Cardinal says, I thought that the FBI and sword agent dialogue was meant to be hokey. I found it extremely hokey. Like just between the jokes and that girl who is the one that you were talking about, who's like, what is this thing? Why is this a sitcom? She seemed like she was straight out of CSI. She's that like wisecracking, like.
Well, that's her character from Thor. I mean, that's the kind.
She's been here before.
Yeah.
Was she in?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thor. She was in the first two Thor movies.
She's in Thor. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that was her role in the first two Thor movies, is the sort of like she was the quirky sidekick to Natalie Portman.
Yeah. It's fine she's there. I think it's still just like bad CSI writing to have that character. I don't want a show that's based around her, she's like, call off your suited goons, bro. It's like, that's enough of that. I don't need any more of that, especially when what the show really excels at is the strange Wanda stuff, and like seeing corpse vision in this is nice and things like that. I just want more of that. I don't need.
When you say corpse vision, you mean Vision's literal corpse, not like now we can see through the eyes of the dead.
Right. Yeah. Just pluck those eyes out. Yeah, and as Kyle in the Discord mentioned, hopefully she's been puppeteering his dead body the entire time. And
I hope so. That would be pretty awesome.
But I like the stuff like that. I really just don't like. I was just seeing stuff online that's like, get us this Agent. What's Agent Lee? Is that his name? Agent Wu. Get us Agent Wu show. Like, no, I don't need an Agent Wu show. Get out of here. But it didn't seem to bother you as much.
It was what it was. It didn't. It was, I would say, overall, the real world stuff that didn't revolve around Monica, I found fairly middle of the road. It just felt like workman-like dialogue and scenes, and I think that's why I was wishing they would push it a little bit further.
Yeah,
because all of it was fairly down the middle. Let's get a little bit of character exposition and try to explain a little bit of what's going on, but not really explain anything. And it didn't bother me that much. I wasn't really expecting, David Milch dialogue from the show or anything. So
yeah.
I did see that tweet about giving Agent Wu his own show, and it would say like it would be a fun version of the X-Files, and I was like, hold on. The X-Files was very fun. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but it's not like the X-Files was
a silly ass version of the
slog,
X-Files.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, do you not remember the episode that was made to look like an episode of Cops, where they follow a small town cop, police car around hunting a werewolf? It was a fun show.
Yeah, it's the same. It's even less of a joke. It's like they should just do a Reno 911 version of Cops. It's like, well, at a certain point, like I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't. It's just this. Every character who exists in a thing that you like doesn't need its own spin-off show. Like, I don't know how far Agent Wu would go in his own thing, sort of making lightly curious squinty faces at stuff and then making a joke about what's going on. It's like, I don't think I need that character, and I don't need his X-Files type stuff. It's X-Files without the mythology, as Norman says. I don't mind Wu. I was unfamiliar with him because he's only in movies I haven't seen, I don't think. I just think that I found that stuff, as you're saying, pretty unremarkable just because of how much it is catching stuff up and how I think it is workmanlike dialogue, but it's really, when you're comparing it to what's going on in the sitcom world, it's like, this is really dull. I'm just kind of shocked that they did the whole episode around that, basically, except for that very minor scene where you, as the audience, are revealed that even though you know it happens, you get Wanda shooting, what's her name? Monica? Is that right?
Yeah.
Monica, getting Monica out of the world. And we didn't see how that happened, but it's clear that she shot her with her red energy and shot her out of the world.
Yeah.
That's about it.
The implication seems to be that Wanda is aware of what she's doing.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, is a step forward from the last few episodes, because we weren't really sure.
She did reset her. She did reset Vision in the previous episode when he started to go wrong. Yeah. So there were hints at it, but this is the most overt case of her fixing the things before anybody notices what's gone wrong.
Which is fine. And I understand that's their cliffhanger lead-in moment for the next episode. But again, I don't think it's not that big of a revelation to really justify not moving the story forward a little bit more, because I kind of wish that they had done like half and half or something, as far as the real world stuff and the television stuff, just so they had a little bit more stuff they could push forward.
Yeah,
because I feel like, honestly, This is the first one, and I know it's only episode 4, but I think it's only 9 episodes or something. But this is the first one that feels like it has that middle season Netflix Marvel show drag. Yeah. Not that it wasn't a draggy episode, but it was just like
detached.
Yeah, it just feels like, could you have done this in half the time? Probably.
One scene in each of the prior 3 episodes would have added to basically what this is.
Yeah. Like I've seen people saying that they thought the second episode was kind of unnecessary, and you could have just gone from 1 to 3. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, 2 had a lot of good stuff in it and was really interesting, and continued pushing the idea forward a little bit. Whereas this one, it's like, it's really just sort of catching you up, and the fact that it's not driving things forward a little bit more makes me feel like it's a little bit superfluous.
Yeah, and I think in the previous episodes I had criticized, it was like, I think the sitcom jokes run dry for me after about 15 minutes, so the episodes feel a little bit long, but I think that's the argument for why you take these and you cut this episode and you cut it up into scenes prior to this, and it reduces the burden on the sitcom jokes and does a little bit more information revealing of what's going on in the real world. And because what's going on in the real world isn't super interesting to me to carry a full episode, I don't mind not throwing away, but using it in one scene of a 5-minute sequence. And I go, okay, that's fine with that.
Like if they had followed Monica for the whole episode and you got to see what was going on from her point of view, I think that would have maybe been a little bit more interesting.
Oh, like the entire episode reliving her past couple episodes?
Yes,
you mean?
Yeah. Whether or not she knows what's going on or what, and then maybe if you shoot her out a little bit earlier, then you can introduce the stuff outside. And because like you don't need to think you need to thread or connect every dot for the stuff that we've seen in the past 3 episodes. Apparently, there are some people who do feel that way. But
have we seen Monica in the movies to this point?
Yes, but not in the way that she is in this. She is the daughter of Captain Marvel's friend, Air Force friend in the Captain Marvel movie. So the mom who dies is that friend from Captain Marvel. So in Captain Marvel, she's the little girl who helps her pick her costume and stuff.
Oh, I see.
I actually didn't catch it the first time. But in the opening scene, as she's coming back, there's all sorts of like voiceover stuff happening, and the last thing you hear is Captain Marvel say Lieutenant Trouble, which is what the nickname that she gives her in the Captain Marvel movie. But in the comics, Monica Rambeau actually was Captain Marvel for a time, in I want to say the 80s.
Yep.
Possibly the 70s, because she looks like Pam Grier.
So we're just supposed to assume, is it mysterious? What is mysterious? Because Wu doesn't know. We don't know why she is play acting in this world, right? This entire time. Right. So whether or not she knows Wanda and Vision, it seems, and she knows about Ultron, and she knows about all that stuff. So she's just in there gathering information, I guess.
I think that's why I would have liked to see it from her point of view, because it seems like she's not in there actively. I guess that's the question, is she actively herself, or is she under the spell of the thing and she just kind of breaks out of it as she kind of remembers Ultron or remembers the brother and
right,
stuff like that.
Because the giveaway, she screws herself over by mentioning Ultron, and I don't remember why she does that.
Because because Wanda starts talking about having a twin brother that died, and then that triggers Monica to say, "Oh, he was killed by Ultron."
It's not done in a way. Are we supposed to be implied that? I guess we don't know, and that's why you're asking. But was it done in a way where she was trying to trigger Wanda to say something about it, or to see where Wanda's mind was at, or was it a mistake to bring up her brother in the first place? Was she testing the waters with her?
I don't think so. I think it was. Again, that's why I would have liked a little bit more with Monica coming out of the thing, because whether or not she did that on purpose is up for debate. It seems like she did it just as though she was like, Wanda saying the thing about the brother triggered something in Monica to where she's like, oh, you had a brother who was killed by Ultron, which then triggers. But I don't know. Maybe she was in there and totally of her own mind the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah, I got the impression that it was a memory that got triggered, and she was trying to work it out as she was thinking about it, like a sort of memory that was repressed, that was pulled up. But I don't understand why that would be the case. They didn't explain why she would be different going into this world, because the beekeeper guy isn't different, although you don't really have a chance to see what's different about him.
We don't know what happens to him. He just
does he get out of the manhole? He's like, what the fuck? What? Where?
Yeah, I mean, he just got all Wanda did was rewind the world and he disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. They send him in, and then they don't really ever follow up with it after they pull out the thing that turned into the jump rope.
Yes, it turns into a fun jump rope. Tarek says, I really hoped we would get 5 or 6 episodes in before the big reveal. I wanted to see them push the sitcom through the decades thing a little further, getting us to at least the thousands before. Are they? They must be going back to the sitcom.
They are.
Stuff,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. I think they are going to push through to the 2000s, because I saw a trailer for the next episode, and it looked like it seemed to have instances of the episodes coming after that as well. And there was one where she was doing like the modern. It seemed like she was doing the Modern Family thing, where she was sitting and like talking directly into the camera.
Yeah.
And I say Modern Family and not The Office, because she was like in a house, basically.
A home. Yeah.
And there was also
should have said Spinal Tap, or give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I just rewatched Spinal Tap for the first time in a while the other weekend. That movie's so friggin' good.
We're professionals. That's my favorite understated joke of Spinal Tap, is when he's bitching about the sandwich and they go out on his line. It's like, I'm a He's like, is this going to be a problem? He goes, I'm a professional.
Yeah. I caught a line I had never caught before where they're in the lobby waiting for their hotel, and the more famous guy comes in, and they start talking to him, and they say to the manager, "Oh, you should hang around, and we should catch up." And he goes, "I'm sorry, I'm really busy. I have to go wait in the lobby for the limo." And then he just walks away. But there was another clip in there that looks like it's from the 80s version where the house now looks like the house from Family Ties.
Okay.
Which is fun. So they're definitely going back to it, yeah.
Yeah. To Tarek's point, is this too much of a reveal to go back to that style of show at this point? And are the people who are complaining, not complaining, but the people who are saying that there should be more MCU aspect to this, is this now just a tease where you're like, why am I back in 2 episodes of this? Fundamentally, it will have to change because now that you know what Wanda's doing, I think you really have to amplify that she's hiding trauma within these sequences, Yeah. So it's going to be different and more overt. I have to imagine.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be more back and forth. I think it's going to be, you're probably going to get a little bit of each setting every episode from this point on. Maybe not every episode, but I think you're definitely going to bounce back and forth because you got to figure out. I mean, Monica has to have some sort of debriefing scene, I assume. And then they have to formulate some sort of plan, I would assume, as to how they're going to break this open and whatnot. And I assume Monica is going to be the one who helps Wanda get through and break down what's going on, since they're both dealing with trauma of people they lost and stuff like that.
I hope they
Excuse me.
I hope they start sitcomizing the real world portion of this, and like David Brent shows up as the director of the FBI or something. It's just, I think you need to connect all the dots.
I'm a little surprised they haven't done something like that, where it's like you've got this show that is so based in sitcom television tropes. But I mean, to be fair, we've only had 1 episode outside of the sitcom. But like, yeah, you would add a whole new level to that shit if like the guy who was the leader of SWORD was Michael Grossman or Michael Gross from Family Ties or something, or Bob Saget or something, like, because then you're like, your brain starts working overdrive because you're seeing TV people that you know from sitcoms in this show about a sitcom, but you're not in the sitcom at the moment.
Right. How far is Wanda's powers spreading, basically? Like, is Wanda impacting the real world, or is this just kind of like a weird red herring self-referential thing that they're doing?
Yeah, I think that would be a nice extra layer of mind fuckery to the show.
Just characters just slipping on banana peels in the background of the real world set and stuff like
not even like making it super overt. It's just like your casting decisions are like, wait, this guy is a television legend and you've cast him as the director of SWORD. Right. What is going on?
Yeah that would be clever. Are you surprised there's 9 episodes? Does the timing of this episode surprise you in any way? I'm a little concerned that there's 9 episodes now because I don't know what else we can do. You can reference more sitcoms. Is that a tease? You can reveal what's going on. I think I kind of know what's going on. Like without the exact details of what's going on, I think I understand what's going on, unless this is some weird red herring. But I just don't know if there's 5 episodes of that left.
Yeah, it's going to have to depend on what. I think the next episode is going to be a big signifier of what it looks like going forward. Because if it does, I think this episode makes sense where it is. Because if you count the first 2 as 1 episode, then there's 8 episodes, which makes this. Well, I guess either way, this is the one in the middle. So it makes sense that they're kind of breaking the walls open a little bit. But yeah, as to what I think that's what's bothering me is they're halfway in. They've more or less solved the main problem, right? The main mystery question is what's going on, who's behind this, and the answer seems to be Wanda is manifesting this. They don't really have a secondary. They don't go out of the episode on a secondary question. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like, okay, we figured this out, but now we have to figure out what this means to propel them into the back half of the season. You get a little bit of that where they talk about when Kat Dennings is pulling the signals down. She mentions that there's this energy signal that is the same energy that originated from the Big Bang or some bullshit.
Yeah.
And there's someone is like, wait, so you're saying the universe created a sitcom starring 2 Avengers? And they're like, yeah, I guess so. But that's never really posited as the next question as to like what the secondary cause is.
Yeah.
But that
I wasn't even thinking. I wasn't like I need more information about the cosmic background radiation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could think maybe that would be it, but I feel like just going forward, it feels like they should have had a little bit of a bridge into what the questions of the remaining 5 episodes are going to
Well,
be.
it has to be. I would have expected the natural amplification to be whatever Wanda's doing is having real world impacts and it's causing problems in the real world with like it's spreading or something, and like this Truman Show reality is taking over towns and people are becoming zombified into her sitcom or something like that. And thank you, Cardinal, for the super chat. Very kind of you.
Cardinal, it'll buy me a zucchini only if it's wrapped in tinfoil and can fit in my pants.
This line, these girls are very scared to like we've got monsters in our trousers.
Armadillos in our trousers. It's really quite frightening, the size.
2-word review simply said shit sandwich.
Yeah.
You can't write that.
I watched an interview with them from like last year, all the 3 of them and Rob Reiner, and they were talking about how everything in that movie was improvised, which I knew, but I didn't understand exactly to the extent. So like when they're doing that scene, when they're reviewing, he's giving them the album reviews, they had no idea the questions. Like they all knew the albums and stuff, but they didn't know the questions and he didn't know the answers. So when he says shit sandwich, I can't believe they all didn't just lose their fucking minds, because I would have lost it.
You can't write that. Matt says, will they stretch it to 2 seasons? I think it's confirmed it's just a limited series thing.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they yeah, I have a feeling that these Marvel shows are not going to work under the same traditional television structure like that, because if you look at the Captain America movies, the Captain America movies went from Captain America movies into basically an Avengers movie but just under the title of Captain America. So I think it's probably going to be something like that, where you're going to have limited runs of these different shows that maybe you won't get WandaVision season 2, but maybe it'll be, you might get Wanda and Monica doing something, or Vision's journey through the afterlife or some shit.
Small independent content that builds the brand overall.
Which
same with the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I honestly don't mind that at all. I think I feel like anthology storytelling is the newest television innovation that hasn't been jumped on as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
Like the American Horror Story idea, where it's like we're going to do different seasons, different shows every season with a similar cast. We're now in this new universe where the channel owns the production and it owns like all the characters, so they can now we're going to do a season of Cheers, and now we're going to do a season of Friends, and then the 3rd season the cast of Friends is going to show up at the Cheers bar, and we're going to do a season of that. Yeah, and it's going to blow your mind. So yeah,
keeps
it's
it fresh.
Yeah, it does. Definitely.
Keeps it going. And then like it's probably, especially for people who are involved in the MCU who are actually actors with a lot of work potentially, there's no reason to lock yourself into 7 years of WandaVision. You know, it's like I can do it for a year and then do whatever I want.
Yeah, and then like the Loki show, they do 10 episodes of Loki. Tom Hiddleston goes off and does theater or a couple movies or something, and then in a couple years he comes back and does now Loki's popping up in the Beta Ray Bill series. That's a spinoff from the next Thor movie or whatever.
One Monkey says, I don't think they solved much. We don't know what role Agnes is playing. We don't know why this town. We don't know what led her to doing this. And then there's the kids. We don't know specifically, but I think it's, unless this is way off of what it is, it's Wanda's clearly doing this to hide trauma and to sort of hide away from the world. And The rest of it isn't enough to really drive me, would be my argument. Like, I know what's going on outside of the extreme granular detail of why she's doing this.
And I think that's kind of to my point of what I'm saying is they've answered a main question, and they've kind of ended the episode as though they've answered this main question, but they haven't supplied a secondary question to move into. Like you're saying you don't know what role Agnes is playing. You're assuming
Who's Agnes?
Agnes is Catherine Hahn.
Oh, okay.
You're assuming there is a role that she's playing other than just another person in the town. They haven't posited that that's the case. I was actually expecting them, as they were doing the thing where they're putting the cast members up on the wall, I was expecting them to put her picture up and be like, but we don't know who this woman is, or something like that. But there was no question there, so there's no implication leading you into the next episode that there is something to be discovered.
Can I clarify? When they're putting up the sort of line diagram of relationships, those people all exist? Like Deborah Jo Rupp is a real person? Okay.
Yeah. Which is why I was thinking they would get to Catherine Hahn, who's the only one of the main cast that they don't put up on the wall.
So sorry, am I just putting stuff together? Has Wanda actually absorbed this town for real? Are the people who are in there the real members of this town that have become part of this sitcom show?
I don't know. That's unclear. It seems like that might be the case, but I didn't look close enough to their driver's licenses.
I know that's. I was expecting dialogue. Yeah, I was expecting dialogue to be like, all these people live in Eastward or wherever town that they say that, or Westview or whatever they're supposed to be living in.
And if
that would make sense.
So that's another thing too, saying they haven't solved much, which I don't think you're not really wrong. But I think that's also kind of the problem, is that this episode was kind of a little bit of wheel spinning. Like, it wasn't really answering questions that we kind of didn't really already know. Or at least not enough, let's put it that way. I think they could have pushed it a little bit more to make things a little bit more intriguing and less wait a minute, what's happening? Oh, that's happening. Oh, why is that happening? I don't know. So.
Yep. They're in Peaksville. Shows out of WandaVision. We didn't see much of the protagonist. Disappointed by that. The show, if anything, the show is kind of missing out on me is just the, I think its balance is a little bit wonky. It's tough to say once it's all done, it'll probably be a little bit different in a way that, we kind of always dodge that with plot story, because I feel the plot is fine here. I just wonder about how they're laying out the scenes between things and whether or not this is done in the best way. Like, I think I would find this more understandable if it was a bingeable show. I think like the week by week, I feel like you have to spread out the scenes a little bit better because you're watching it chunk by chunk. But if it was if this was a binge, this is the first 2 hours. And I feel that the last quarter of those 2 hours being this sword reveal is okay in that context, So it's one of these, how they want to release the show seems to change how you receive when you're watching it.
Yeah, which is funny because I think when we started, you were happy that it wasn't a binge thing, right?
I am happy. I'm always happy when a show is not a binge thing. But I think that if you're not binging, I think that you have to do the thing where you take a scene of each episode and you add the sword stuff into it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I don't like the stress of binge watching things. Any other things to say about this one? I'm pretty much done. I don't know if anyone has any questions. We can spin our wheels for 15 seconds until the chat catches up. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting one because I liked watching it. I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't think it was bad. I was not as engrossed by the FBI sword stuff as the Wanda stuff. And I still like the moments of bizarre, surreal creepiness that they stick into it. And I think that that's the most interesting aspect of it. And I hopefully they don't move away from that too quickly.
Yeah. What would actually be a really nice episode to do would be to do an episode of the show from the point of view of the real world watching. How do I phrase this? So the bit where Vision's dead body comes in, it would be nice to see an entire episode of what that looks like. So it's
without the sitcom trappings.
Without the sitcom trappings. But I mean, I guess technically you can't do that because she is actually manifesting all of this stuff as quote unquote real. but basically, yeah, to see the holodeck without the skins on it.
It's just Vision is Weekend from Bernie's is just like flopping bodies.
Yeah.
It's just falling over onto
Just
things.
over to like hugging her.
I like his dead makeup. When he goes back to like his normal color, you're like, it's very saturated. He's an extremely saturated person. I like
I
his.
think
I like his
that's by design, though.
It is. Yeah, it is by design. It's just. It's really garish when you see him. I mean, now Alistair has the little toy of Vision, and I look at him. I'm just like, you don't really fit in with the others. Like, you're a strange design, really. It's just like he's basically Loki's outfit with a purple face. He's green and yellow, with a purple face.
Yeah, he's there's an episode coming up where it seems to take place at Halloween, and everybody's wearing Halloween costumes, and Vision is dressed like Vision from the comics, which is big green jumpsuit with big bright yellow cape and more of a red face than a what's the
magenta
face. And and Wanda wears a version,
a witch,
a more television friendly version of the Scarlet Witch costume from the comic, because she tends
I would just dress her in the traditional black witch costume, but make it red, just with the pointy hat.
Yeah, she has a specific headpiece that she wears and stuff, and usually she's traditionally drawn with a lot more cleavage, but I don't think they're going to go that way.
Her 70s Brady Bunch outfit doesn't skimp on cleavage, really.
That's true.
It's a revealing. It has that extended sequence where she's swirling the energy around her.
Swirling the what, Wes?
Did I cut out there? Oh, I apologize for that. She's really fondling those balls of energy, is all I have to say about that.
Yep, they're really red.
Yeah. Join the Patreon if you do The Expanse. We have so much to do, but it would be wonderful to join the Patreon anyway, to be very snippy.
I feel like The Expanse
is
becoming one of those things where it's like so many people are talking about it that I'm actively not going to do it until nobody's talking about it anymore.
Or you'll be hostile to it. It's that thing. It's like everyone's like, this is the greatest thing. You go, I don't think it's the greatest thing at all. I think it's
how many times
above average.
How many times has someone told you got to watch Breaking Bad?
Yeah. That's it. No questions. No questions about West Virginia, New Jersey, or anything else. So I guess we'll call it a day there. Thank you guys for listening to our coverage of episode 4 of WandaVision. I think that's pretty much it. We'll be back with number 5 and then all the way to 9. And Star Trek should return this week, but don't hold me to it. But I'm 90% sure it will return this week with the next Enterprise, which is Cogenitor. And then Clay and Amanda just released Friday the 13th on Patreon. If you're not inspired by The Expanse, Friday the 13th is up there. And that's good. They'll be going through the entire series, which will take a year on Patreon because there's 12 of them.
We've got a new Rotten Horror coming out this week. We're doing the 2013 or 2016, I don't know, somewhere in there, slasher movie, You're Next, which is fun.
2016, I think. Yeah. And that's it. And then Badass, does that have a timetable? Was this week supposed to be Badass? Or I can't remember.
No, Badass usually would have come out last week, but I took a week off. Probably next week. We're just doing the our wrap up. No, sorry, the Sub-Zero movie and a Q&A thing. So yeah, most likely that'll be next week. Yeah,
next week. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's 12 of them. 12.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because there should be 13.
Not to spoil the Patreon, but I liked Amanda's thing of it should just be called Friday.
Yeah, it's not, make it very confusing.
The 13th one is just Friday. And it should star Chris Tucker and is it Chris Tucker in that?
Yeah, Chris Tucker, Ice Cube.
Yeah.
I would love to see that if it was Friday the 13th, but it was just the cast of Friday. That would be amazing.
Yep. So you guys can check that out at patreon.com/The Penske File. We'll be back with the Star Trek show. Everything else will continue as normal. Getting my feet under me. Lack of sleep. Although I think this one went well. I think we had a good conversation about this one. And that's it. Guys, thank you very much for listening. Stay warm. The snow is coming down now, so we'll cut it before the internet goes out. Thanks very much, Cardinal, for the super chat. And see you guys on the flip side.